Alright, so a few of you have asked to see parts of my kayak. I shared a picture of it with a sail on it, and you guys wanted to know how I did it. So I'm going to show you a few parts of it just to get started. We have it's a Future Beach Explorer 10.4. And I used the front hatch, which is a very small dry spot, to drill a hole in the center for my mast. I used a 1 1/4 inch bit, and that just barely fits a 1 inch piece of PVC. The inside diameter is 1 inch, the outside is just over 1 1/4. I have a piece of 1 1/4 inch PVC down between the top and the bottom of the kayak, and on that piece of PVC there is 4 L brackets. You can see the bolts for the top ones here. It also screws into the side of the 1 1/4. I'd cut the heads of the screws off so the pipe can still fit through. On the bottom side, we got a piece of flattened out 3 inch piece of PVC. I drilled the 4 holes through both the bottom of the kayak, the brackets, and the piece of PVC. I put a generous layer of silicone on the piece of PVC, and then these here screws are actually what I used to work with called barrel bolts. You got a head that's got a screw, and then on the other side it's got a head that's like a big nut. So they both have a Phillips head on both sides, and they thread into each other. I Loctited those screws, threaded them together, made it sandwich the silicone out, and then cleaned up the bead around it. Now you're going to ask if this is waterproof. I had it out yesterday on the lake and didn't have any water come in whatsoever. The other thing I did, you might not be able to see it from up here, there's a 1/4 inch bolt, goes all the way through the 1 1/4 inch piece of PVC, a few inches up from the bottom, and that there is to keep the mast from rotating in the hole. It's a pretty snug fit, so I don't worry about the mast coming out on its own. It stays in there just fine. The mast is made of 2 parts that fit inside the kayak, so when I'm not using it, it's out of the way. I can put it in there. If I get to a part of the lake that it gets windy, I can go close to the shore, get out, put this on, and get back out on the water and sail it. This part here is all 1 inch PVC. There is a section of 3/4 inch PVC through both sections of the mast. So what it looks like is this. And this part, 3/4 inch PVC, does not fit in 1 inch PVC. You have to sand it, shave it, do what you got to get it to fit. I used a wood scraper to get it close, and then hand sanded the rest of it, and with a little bit of WD-40 for lubricant and a sledgehammer, smacked it into the other pipe. I left approximately 8 inches hanging out here, and I shaved this down a little bit more so that it'll slide into the lower section of the mast relatively easy. I'll try to set the camera down here. So the mast will slide into itself relatively easy. A little bit of twist, it cinches up. The last little bit of that portion that sticks out of the top part of the mast is a little bit tight, so that way it stays snug. At the top of the mast, we have a 1 inch cap with a bolt through that is Loctited on the other side with a simple pulley that I got from Roll King. It's like $1 something. I use paracord for my halyard, and that runs all the way down the mast to a pulley up here in the front, which is just loose. It's a screw with a jam nut on the other side, and then I have a knot in my paracord to keep it from coming all the way through and going up. I can grab a hold of this, pull that, it'll pull my sail up, and then I tie it off on this homemade cleat. This cleat is some higher end plywood. I'm not sure where I got it. I had some in the garage. I've got 2 bolts going through. I'm using the old brass spacers, or yeah, I can't remember what they're called, but it's the old brass from the door hinges of like a truck, and this comes through and bolts in to a bracket that's on the inside. I've got silicone around that as well to keep water from coming in there. The lower section of the mast has a homemade bracket, and on this bracket I drew it up on paper to where it was all one piece. I drilled 2 1¼ inch holes in the PVC, and then shaved it out till it just barely fit over the mast, and then took a torch, and it's not pretty, I could have done a better job, and heated up the ends so that I could fold it. And then I folded the other end over so that it ran together. Then I've got a 3/8 hole through the end here, and that is where my boom will bolt to. The boom, the entire mast from the top of this bracket to the top of the cap is about 8 foot. So I've got an 8 foot tall sail. The entire piece is 10 foot. And at the bottom part of the mast here, this is where that bolt that goes through the mast mount in the front of the kayak goes through. I just drilled a hole through where I had this down in the hole when I drilled the hole for the bolt. So I pulled this out, and I took my jigsaw and just cut it out both sides until I had a decent little V groove, and it slides right down in there and stays snug. So I don't have to worry about that. This piece, or this bracket here, was made out of a piece of 3-inch PVC that I flattened out. You can flatten out PVC by cutting a section however long you want it. You got to remember the diameter when it's flattened out is going to be the diameter times pi. So 3.14. If I used a 1-inch section, I'd get roughly over 3 inches. A 3-inch piece of PVC, you get about 9 inches. The thing is, you got to cut a strip down one side of it, and then I used my oven. I heated my oven up to about 220 degrees, set it on a pizza sheet so it didn't melt or anything, and it depends on how big your piece is. It'll take some time, you just got to keep an eye on it, and it'll start to warp, and when you see the pipe warp, you can take it out and like flatten it. But what I do is I stick it between 2 boards that are nice and flat, and then I stand on it for a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes tops, so that it cools back off enough that it keeps its shape. And what you'll end up with is a flat piece of hard plastic, and it's pretty durable. It's not going to flex much. I mean, this mount here works pretty good. I've got it screwed on through the 3/4 inch and the 1-inch piece of PVC with 3 screws, and I ran, because I didn't have PVC glue at the time, a bead of super glue around both sides on each bracket. The boom is roughly 48 inches long. Got a flat end cap here and a rounded cap here with a 3/4 or the 3/8 hole. The sail is simply just ran around with PVC through grommets in the sail, and then at the end I have it drilled through and knotted so it can't pull out. Right here is the line for the boom that goes through this pulley, which I attached to be loose so it can kind of flop back and forth, and that controls the swing of it. I just pull on that and it'll get tighter, or I'll let it out and it goes further out for my trimming. The sail was like $6 worth of fabric from Walmart. I found a color I liked with a decent thickness to it, not too heavy, not too light, and it's not microfibery or whatever. It's more like a bed sheet or a curtain. I folded it twice at the edges, about 1 inch, and then ran a side-to-side stitch down it to keep it sealed. Bought some 1/4 inch grommets from Walmart and put those in about every foot. So there's so many going up and so many going down the side. The up side of the mast, which I'm probably going to change, I just ran paracord from, it's tied off down here at the base, and I ran it around and around and around and around through the eyelets. Well, what I'm probably going to do is take that off, and then at each eyelet just tie it around. Sometimes when I pull on the halyard to raise the sail, it'll bind up, and I have to scoot forward my seat, reach up, and kind of shimmy the sail a little bit, and then pull on the halyard again. After the first couple times, it does just fine, but I'm going to change it over to where each eyelet has its own loop so it doesn't want to bind up.